Hello, my name's Chris Gorse. I'm here with Fidelis Emuze from the Central University of Technology in South Africa. We're going to touch on some of the issues concerning sustainability and construction management. Fidelis, we've currently got a global population of 7.5 billion, increasing rapidly, with predictions in the next few years for it to rise to 9 billion. We've now taken the CO2 levels in the atmosphere up to 400 parts per million. Changes that are taking place that we've never seen before, so we've got a very dispersed and changing population, quite a transient group. We've got a lot of change in the environment, and we're trying to do things more sustainably. And I think there's both socio and technical challenges within the construction industry. I mean, that's quite a large area, but I just wondered, what do you think are the most pressing your most pressing issues at the moment in terms of sustainability, and how construction management specifically might start to challenge some of the problems?
I think in terms, when you reflect on the population and the rate of growth, it means there are more people that has to be sheltered. It means there is rural-urban migration. A lot of either to rural areas are becoming urban cities. It means construction management have to think about urban development in a different way. We have to think about livability. We have to think about mobility within the city. We have to think about the smartness of the buildings that we currently occupy. It means the way we build has to be radically different. And we have to reflect, if you have got a large population and the earning, the income, it's not as it's not so high. You have to look for solutions that can meet the specific needs. But essentially, it means we build differently.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to take cognizance of the impact of our activities when we are constructing, and the impact of the built environment. Let's take, for instance, buildings, the world over constitute a large amount of CO2 emissions. Okay? So we shouldn't just think about the emissions that occur when the buildings are in use. We should think about our activities while building such projects. Let's say, for instance, you have got logistics. There are diverse ways of doing logistics on site, moving materials in and out of site. If you are not cognizant of how you lay out your site, then you have to inadvertently increase traffic on the road, which actually impact on the health and safety of the people, the public, and your workers, which can lead to motor vehicle accident, which is quite high in developing countries. So it's a paradigm shift, thinking differently about how to get the job done.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I think there's a lot of areas that we can change the process to make it more efficient and a leaner and less carbon intensive process. I think in terms of as the population changes in areas, and thinking about sustainability, there are specific needs on construction projects, and in some areas we're trying to reduce the skill level, which may mean we may be able to make better use of the local populations, which is extremely important for where you're setting up the construction project, and for engaging the society in the area. So working out how we take the specialists and the experts to different areas and how they lead that area, but then also to what extent can we engage different local populations with different skills and attributes. There's also the question, so obviously there's the new projects and the refurbishment projects, and you talked about obviously the move from rural to urban areas. You can see very different very different challenges. So a very different challenge for a new project, a very different challenge for a refurbishment project, and different challenges depending on the cities that we're building into, or the infrastructure that's there. And very different challenges between the developing world and the developed world. I mean, how do you see what are the big challenges in the developing world, and then what are some of the challenges in the developed world?
I think a challenge that cut across, whether it's the developing world or is that of leadership from the client.
Right.
The client actually demands a product. In construction, you can't just build for the fun of it. Somebody must identify a need and request for the need. Now, if the client shows leadership in sustainability, in demanding attributes of sustainability, meaning the client looks beyond the traditional iron triangle of cost, time, and quality to demand environmental issues and other attributes of a facility, then the entire supply chain will have to fit what the client is looking for. Now, if the client looks in the surrounding, in the population, okay, I need to provide new living facilities for a particular estate, for particular people, but I want to do it smartly, I want to do it sustainably, then the construction management is duty-bound to work towards that particular area. But if the client, I think it's the intelligent client we need. Intelligent in the sense that the client is able to demand green jobs, decent jobs, okay, as promoted by the International Labour Organization and other issues. So if the client really can show leadership in sustainable issues, then I think we'll move towards more a sustainable built environment, whether it's in developing world or it's in the developed country.
I'd like to think that clients can both demand something which is sustainable, both in terms of the building and in terms of the supporting the economy and the social structure that surrounds it. But I really am hopeful that they can do it in an economically viable way. Because one of the problems at the moment is we've got a lot of sustainable projects or low carbon or energy efficient projects that are 2-3 times more expensive than what may be considered traditional approaches, which is not acceptable. I have seen in some of the new projects, some of the engineered structures that are coming in with a system build that address a more economical and a higher performing building. And it's interesting that in those projects, they're very much developed world projects at the moment, but in those projects the clients are demanding this. So this is really good. It's client driven, and the developer is market facing. So there's a special group of clients there that are waiting for this.
I wanted to say that in our context, because I'm from a developing country, it's one of the biggest challenge for sustainable buildings is, of course, finance.
Yes.
Because we have this mindset that to build sustainably is more expensive. But of course, when you look at the whole life cycle cost of a facility, there might actually be point of trade-off. But the initial capital outlay is actually a challenge. And if we sort of look at local resources and maybe de-emphasize the use of expensive technologies, okay, maybe we'll start having some buy-in. Because in developing countries, most clients, especially first-time clients, are private citizens. That when you propose sustainable or green building attribute for a particular product, they might say, no, it is too expensive. I'm not going to get financing from the bank. But if you give alternative that are not so expensive, and you are able to show the trade-off that, look, in operation you spend less amount of money on energy, etc., then the buy-in will gradually come into place.
I agree. I think there's a capital that's growing on knowledge. So when you talked about leadership before, I think good leadership is going to be able to recognise knowledge that can tackle some of these problems and putting teams together that are able to address the social, the economic and the environmental issues and come out with solutions. So looking for good leadership there will help us move forward. You've mentioned before what about hidden forces that shape decision making. I just wouldn't want to sort of end really with what's your thoughts on how you can position things to shape good decision making when you've got forces that are outside your control, unforeseen situations.
I think the most important way that can actually help in weeding out the trivial issues and focusing on the crucial one is focusing on the essential things that are needed to be done. Okay, you've got a client that demanded for a particular product. You look at what the client what the client looks at as a user value. Okay, then you focus on getting it done instead of adding add-ons to it. Maybe because you're trying to promote a particular process or a particular product. So it's when you focus on what is essential. The question is, how do you choose what is essential? There are many systems for making such decisions. You can use in terms of link construction. We are coming back to link construction. Now you've got a particular system called the choosing by advantages, whereby you have two options and you are able to systematically eliminate the options that will not add value. So I think it's about focusing on what is essential in a particular process, in a particular product. And we must be conversant of the fact that what is essential in this particular project. Remember, construction is a derived product and it is project specific. It is unique in its own. What is essential in UK, for instance, might not actually be essential in South Africa.
I absolutely agree. I think there's obviously a challenge. We've got a very dynamic world, a global economy, and changing structures. And I absolutely agree with you that when to do things economically and viably, we've got to actually look at what the needs of the project are. To address some of the unforeseen circumstances, that puts major emphasis on having very good teams that are reliable. So as situations change, so it's very good in terms of making a project team or giving aligning the project team to the essential requirements of the project. But then when things change, that might mean that we've got to adapt. And I think that we have to have lean teams, but to be able to be adaptable, hopefully they've got to stay together and have some of the skills, some of the more transient skills, so that when the economic forces change or project requirements change, they can still adapt, which is about education and knowledge and committed teams.
And a pragmatic worldview.
Absolutely, Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks ever so much for coming across for joining us in this interview. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have some more conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.